Here we are for another round of the 70s versus the 90s, and it's a Jack Nicholson showdown when I put Bob Rafelson's Five Easy Pieces against James L. Brooks's As Good as It Gets. And this one was a hard one to get through because both of these movies feature a very iconic and great Jack Nicholson performance. So let's just dive right on in to the nitty and the picky. First up, we have Bob Rafelson's Five Easy Pieces, which is hands down probably the best film that Bob Rafelson ever directed, and with the only competition being The King of Marvin Gardens. But this was basically a pivotal moment in Jack Nicholson's career. He was coming off of a star-making performance in Easy Rider, and Five Easy Pieces would only propel him further into superstardom and be one of the greatest actors to come out of the 1970s. And of course, the movie kicks off the decade of the 70s. It come out of the year 1970, and it had basically kind of a last note of anything to say about what the 60s did and kind of the anxiety and the desperation that most motherfuckers felt coming out of that decade. And of course, Jack Nicholson playing Bobby Dupuy basically embodies that whole thing. In a way, he's kind of the adult rebel without a cause. You know, he's even got the red jacket that's very much reminiscent of James Dean's red jacket and Rebel Without a Cause. And of course, like, you know, dude doesn't really know what the fuck he wants. You know, he works on a oil rig with his buddy, played by Billy Greenbush, who always to me had an annoying fucking face and just an annoying fucking demeanor in general, you know. And, you know, as one of the best scenes in the film, you know, where he's like he's trying to school Bobby and stuff, and you know, Bobby as Nicholson just goes off on some cracker asshole lives in a trailer comparing his life to mine. You know, it's just the guy can like he's like a ticking time bomb, but you never know when the fuck he's gonna be set off. You know, and like one minute he feels this way, the next minute he feels the other. He doesn't even know where the fuck he's going with his emotions and shit. And of course, he's got a girlfriend played by Karen Black, who's a waitress. You know, and you know she's sweet as can be, very good looking broad, but you know like he's kind of bored with her. You know he doesn't know what the fuck. He gets real irritated with her and stuff, and you just see him just be spontaneous the whole fucking movie. You know there's that scene, one of the most iconic scenes in the film where they're going to work and there's big traffic on the freeway, all at a standstill and stuff, and you know he's yelling at people, barking at dogs, and then just gets on top of this flatbed truck and starts playing the piano that's on top of it. Just rides away. Says, "Fucking, I ain't going to work. I just ride around playing this piano and shit." Because he's also a piano prodigy. He comes from a family of music prodigies and stuff, and you know he ends up having to go back up to his family home in Washington. You know when he finds out from his sister that their father had two strokes and he's not doing too well, so he's trying to reconnect with him, but he's having a hard time. And then of course, like he sees the Susan Onspach, who's basically his brother's apprentice or something. You know, I don't know how the hell else to describe it. You know, but they're also lovers and you know engaged to be married and shit. But he ends up like infatuated with Susan Onspach, who's just really just a smarter version of the chick that he has. You know, and so like he's trying to deal with that. You know, just can't get out of his own way essentially, and he basically wants to be anywhere except for where he's at, you know. And we see that from that magnificent ending where he just like he's at the gas station, he just decides to just leave, leaves his fucking coat and it gives his wallet to Karen Black, and then just rides off with that trucker to Alaska, just like them lesbians they picked up, which is, they wouldn't shut the fuck up about how dirty everything is. They want to go to Alaska because it's clean. And of course, the film itself does have so many iconic scenes. Probably the most iconic is that restaurant scene where it's like no substitutions, and he's giving the waitress shit, and it's like, you see this sign, I want you to hold the chicken between your knees and all that shit. And it's like, it's a very powerful Jack Nicholson performance, because it's like the kind of shit that like Brando was like known for and stuff. And like if there's any actor that can really like that be credited for picking up the torch from Brando, it is Jack Nicholson. Of course they had a real close relationship too, so something was bound to rub off. I mean, all those guys of that time period were just, praying at the altar of Brando and shit. And also like it's just the ending too, of course, when he's trying to reconnect with his father and stuff, there's not long speeches, there's no romance in the film, in even the title itself, I always thought was kind of perverted. When I hear the term Five Easy Pieces, I'm thinking of pussy, but like it's really about music, pieces of music and stuff. It's like the same title of a fucking piano thing for a kid to learn piano on and shit. But then we move forward to James L. Brooks's As Good as It Gets, where we find Jack Nicholson in the role that got him his third Academy Award, and playing Melvin Udall is the name of the character. He's a writer of romance novels and stuff, but he's also got severe OCD. Dude's batshit crazy, belligerent, out of control. Like he needs to be in his own environment and stuff. And of course, like he's got his own little table at this restaurant that he has to sit in using his plastic utensils and shit. And he has to have the same waitress, Carol, played by Helen Hunt, who also won the Academy Award for this film. And the acting in this movie is really good. Everybody in it is on point. Greg Kinnear, who plays the gay painter, who's also Udall's neighbor and stuff. And he has that little dog that's annoying as shit that Nicholson at first ends up, he first hates and then he ends up liking him when he has to take care of him. When Greg Kinnear gets the shit beat out of him by those people robbing his house, fucking fake ass Johnny Depp looking motherfucker, Skeet Ulrich and Jamie Kennedy's bitch ass. And so through all that, like really the having to take care of the dog is kind of a chain reaction that sets him off to being a better human being, because when Carol doesn't show up to the diner one day and she's probably not gonna be there, so he ends up getting a doctor for her son, who's got a lot of health issues and stuff. And of course she thinks that he's trying to fuck her, but really like he just needs her to be at the diner just because he can't have his fucking environment disrupted and shit. But then somewhere through that, then they start trying to inject a fucking romance into it, and then it gets lame as fuck. I mean, honestly, like most James L. Brooks movies are lame as fuck, and this shit has like Oscar bait written all over it and shit. But the thing about it is, like, everybody in it is great. Even Cuba Gooding Jr., who was coming off of his Oscar win for Jerry Maguire as Greg Kinnear's boyfriend in the film. He's fucking wild and crazy as he usually is, and really just playing the gay version of what he played in Jerry Maguire. And all the other side characters too, like Yardley Smith, who's most notable for being the voice of Lisa Simpson, and she's in the shit too. But there's so many like tropes in this shit that is just almost fucking laughable, and it's like, you really think all this shit would have made this dude a better person? It kind of like strays away from what that character is and shit, and even what the Helen Hunt's character is. You really think she's gonna fall in love with a crazy motherfucker like that, somebody that fucking drives her fucking crazy? And I don't know what the fuck kind of statement they were trying to make with this movie, but it's just lame as fuck and falls flat as hell, But like, it's got great moments. It's got great lines in it too. The whole thing, and how that receptionist asks him like, how do you write women so well? It's like, I think of a man and I take away reason and accountability. And then that fucking other line with when the lady comes, the housekeeper is telling him all that shit, open the windows, let him see God's work and all this. Where'd you learn to say things like this? Some Panama City sailor want a hump bar? Sell crazy someplace else, lady. We're all stocked up here. Shit like that. He's got his moments. Of course, Jack Nicholson's, very well earned Oscar performance. The same thing with Helen Hunt. But like I said, it's Oscar bait to the nth degree, and it's just lame ass melodrama that only James L. Brooks can fucking conjure up. So, I mean, this round clearly has to go to Five Easy Pieces, because it's just a real ass movie. It tells the story of a man that can't get out of his own way, much in the same way as Good as It Gets. But as opposed to As Good as It Gets, Five Easy Pieces doesn't really offer up a solution. Is there really even a solution? I guess the argument As Good as It Gets tries to make is that love is the solution to everybody's problems. But I mean, from what I saw in As Good as It Gets, it only brings motherfuckers more misery. They get 5 seconds of happiness and then fucking 3 more hours of fucking misery, So it's like, doesn't seem that fair of a trade-off. You might as well just throw away all your shit and ride off to Alaska with some strange trucker, you know. So, and also too, I mean, shit, the cinematography in Five Easy Pieces done by the great Laszlo Kovacs. You get all the Tammy Wynette songs and stuff instead of all the pretentious ass fucking programmed road music that they put in, you know, because of course they got to go on a road trip and as good as it gets as well, you know, and he plays the piano and as good as it gets. Just leaves you wanting more, and it's way fucking longer than Five Easy Pieces. So, like I said, this round clearly goes to Five Easy Pieces. For anybody keeping score, that is 73 to 57. Man, the 70s are kicking mucho ass, man. They are up by 16 and holding strong because it's been like fucking four in a row this whole little streak, you know, even more than that, you know. So if I've said anything wrong, anything you disagree with, feel free to eviscerate me in the comments. I mean, this is one asshole's opinion on a self-indulgent journey to see which decade was better for movies, the 70s or the 90s. And it's looking like I was right, you know, but we still got a long way to go. Any of you film professors out there that want to use any of this shit, you know, we got to talk compensation because, you know, nobody works for free. Don't be using my shit unless you're going to pay for it. And if you got any suggestions, feel free to add those in the comments and stuff too. You know, I mean, Jack Nicholson, one of the greatest actors of all time, but they did put him in some lame ass movies. But coming up, he was a force to be reckoned with. I mean, he still was, even when he did As Good as It Gets. But you know, sometimes in a James Earl Brooks movie, they kind of clipped his nuts. So, anyways, this another 70s versus 90s. We'll see more of these bonus rounds whenever I have a chance to do them. So stay tuned for that.